In terms of numerical rank, Aaroniero is the lowest ranking Espada. This becomes fact after Yami's 10th ranking magically becomes a 0 rank during the Hueco Mundo arc, but we'll save that discussion for another video. In addition to this low rank, he is the only Gillian class Menos Hollow out of all of the other Espada. We know that they were either a Ducas or Vasto Lorde rank before they were transformed into Arrancar. It would be understandable to assume that these points would hold back Aarioniero's character, but this appears to be far from the case. He is the only Arrancar to have a limitless potential for evolution, and this is because of his greed for constant consumption. Out of all of the other Espada, he is the closest to a Hollow, so he has carried forward the traits of a Hollow into his Arrancar form, so it is understandable to see that he has the primal instinct of a Hollow to devour and to consume. Typically, Hollows do cannibalize each other in order to gain power, but Aaroniero has an ability called Hollow Absorption, and it allows him to devour a dead Hollow and to receive all of its abilities and Reiatsu. And it is because of this ability that I've described him as having a limitless potential for evolution. This sets him apart from ordinary Hollows, and it is most likely the reason why he is the only Gillian class Menos among the Espada, with a unique and disturbing character design and a cunning and ruthless personality. In this video, we're going to break down everything that we know about Aaroniero, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll know everything that you need to know about this character, like how he was able to take upon the form of Kaien Shiba, and the mystery behind his unmasked appearance, which are two heads that are encased within a glass capsule. So without further delay, let's dive into my character analysis of the 9th ranking Espada Aaroniero Arruruerie. Before the video begins, only 20% of the people who actually watch my content are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos, then subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. Aaroniero makes his debut appearance within chapter 229 of the manga and in episode 138 of the anime. He has quite a unique appearance with his elongated head which is covered by a mask, and his Arrancar jacket which appears to be modified as it has frills and wavy edges which give him a very noble or royal appearance. And when his mask is removed, we see his true form, which is a glass jar encasing two small heads. And it is on these heads that we see the remains of his hollow mask, with the upper head having 3/4 of its head covered by a hollow mask, and the lower head only having 1/2 of itself covered by the hollow mask. He was also able to take up the form of Kaien Shiba after he had consumed the parasitic hollow Metastasia. This Espada's ability revolves heavily around his pride that he has for his ability to constantly evolve, and the fact that he has been able to achieve the ranking of an Espada despite the fact that he was a Gillian rank Hollow. When he takes up the form of Kaien Shiba and he manipulates Rukia, we get to see the true side of his character, as he is a cruel and sadistic individual. He takes pleasure in playing with the feelings of his opponents, and all of the knowledge and memories that he has gained from Kaien Shiba he uses to his advantage to make Rukia feel guilty for having killed Kaien. He even tells her to take her own life in order to pay for what she had done. He had warped the character of Kaien to appear as though he was bitter that he was killed by her. He then corrects himself that she shouldn't kill herself, but instead she should kill her friends to make up for what she did. And his cruel attempt at trying to break the resolve of Rukia would ultimately be his own undoing, as Rukia was able to see through the Espada's facade and realize that Kaien would never ask her to do such a thing. If Aaroniero had demonstrated more self-control, and if he was more intelligent with his approach of manipulation, then I'm sure that he would have been more successful and he would have been able to take out Rukia. But thankfully the Espada couldn't help himself and proved that he was very much like a narrow-minded Hollow rather than an intelligent and methodical Arrancar, like most of the other Espada have proven to be, with the exception of Yami, but again we'll talk about that in another video. The two heads that make up Aaroniero also appear to have some form of individuality. This is demonstrated in Aaroniero's final moments, as the two heads have completely different reactions to dying. The bottom face dies while screaming in agony, as it states that it has been betrayed by Aizen, as he had promised the Espada that he would never feel pain again. This lower head also speaks with a high-pitched voice, which makes me believe that this head of Aaroniero is more childlike and immature, while the upper head has a deeper voice, and upon dying it spouts out curses. When Aaroniero is unmasked, on these two heads we see the tattoo with the number 9, and when he typically speaks, these two heads talk at the same time, as it gives the effect of two people mimicking each other. So now that we've got a solid introduction to his character, let's now go into his backstory and try to piece together everything that had happened before his first first appearance within the manga. In chapter 267, we learned that Arruruerio has a power called gluttonaria. It's the ability to consume dead hollows and to take their spirit energy and powers. He had consumed the hollow Metastasia. That hollow has the ability for spirit entity fusion, and we know that when Metastasia had fought Kaien, it had fused with his body. So when the hollow Metastasia had died, its spiritual body had returned to Hueco Mundo, and it was at that point that Arruruerio had consumed the hollow and had taken his powers. The very hollow that had possessed Kaien Shiba is now a part of Arruruerio, and in turn Kaien Shiba's spiritual body now belongs to him also, as it contains all of his thoughts, all of his experiences, and his powers and abilities, even going as far as to being able to utilize Kaien's unpack. Arruruerio first introduces himself to Rukia at the end of chapter 262. He appears before her on the bridge that is just outside of his palace. Originally in his masked state, he tells Rukia to come with him. She follows him into a dark room where he tells her that he has never been fond of the sunlight. Because the sun does not penetrate into his palace, he is freely able to take off his mask and introduce himself, as he reveals to Rukia his name and rank, while removing his mask, revealing the face of Kaien Shiba, which completely stuns Rukia. She immediately identifies him as a former lieutenant. Understandably, she's confused as to how he is here. Rukia had killed him that night with her own hands. Arruruerio then begins his facade as he had recognized her from Kaien's memories. He begins behaving and acting with similar mannerisms to the Kaien that Rukia had adored and looked up to. Seeing her lieutenant alive and full of life brings tears to her eyes. Rukia begins to think to herself that this is Kaien Shiba. She can feel the warmth, like she has just put a hand into the sunlight without realizing it. This was the kind of warmth that she relates to and had felt whenever she was around Kaien Shiba. And it's interesting that she says this because we are aware that the Espada Aaroniero avoids the sunlight. And through what Rukia had just said here, we are aware that Kaien is actually the very essence of this sunlight. And this of course is one of the first hints that we receive that this individual is not the real Kaien Shiba. He continues to try and convince Rukia of his facade by throwing over a cushion to her so that they can sit down and have a catch up. He lies to her by explaining that when Kaien's spiritual body had begun to decay, he ended up being transported to Hueco Mundo. He also states that the hollow Metastasia was one of Aizen's experiments, and when it was destroyed, it was sent to Hueco Mundo to be recreated, since it was designed to do that. But because it had merged with the body of Kaien, when it was recreated, it had taken Kaien's form. Arruruerio continues lying to Rukia as he states that the mind that had controlled the body that was recreated turned out to be Kaien's. While then joking around with Rukia, he explains that he had taken the place of an Espada and had waited for the right opportunity to exact his revenge against Aizen. He states that Aizen had created a blue sky within the dome that covers Las Noches. Aizen rules everywhere that the light shines upon. He tells Rukia that he is glad that she had found him, because she is the only one that can execute his plan. He then lures her to another room and attacks her. She immediately reacts and avoids a fatal injury as the side of her face has been cut. He comments on how he is pleased to see that she is improved. Rukia is confused as she begins to doubt whether if the real Kaien is stood in front of her, but he then proceeds to remind her that it was Rukia that had killed him after all. He tells her that he hopes that she hasn't forgotten this fact. She is after all the woman who had taken Kaien's life. This is why he had tried to kill her just now. He states that his time has come to return the favor to Rukia. He wants her to pay for what she did with her own life. Rukia accepts this as her punishment. She admits that she had always felt guilty about having killed her former lieutenant, even after years had passed. So if killing her will bring him peace, then she is more than happy to give her life. But she tells him that she had come to Hueco Mundo in order to rescue Orihime, and that no matter how bad she feels, she won't let him kill her until Orihime is safe. But the Espada then reveals that that was just a bad joke and he was kidding. He states that he does want her to pay for what she had done, and that there is something that he wants her to do. If she really wants to atone for what she's done, then she needs to kill all of her friends for him. He tells her that she must be aware of all of their strengths and weaknesses, and she just needs to take them by surprise. If Rukia is to be able to do that, then he'll forgive her. But it is at this point that Rukia completely sees through his facade and realizes that this isn't the real Kaien Shiba standing in front of her. Kaien would never joke about such a thing. The real Kaien was a man of honor. He would never ask her to betray her friends. An enraged Rukia activates her Shikai and attacks the Espada. They appear to have briefly clashed off screen as we see them again at the end of chapter 265, as the Espada questions whether if that's all that Rukia has got. Through the memories of Kaien, he knows all of the techniques and abilities of Rukia. After all, Kaien was there when Rukia had invented these abilities. He continues to waver her resolve by questioning whether if these attacks will work against him. He then retaliates by activating the Shikai of Kaien. The way that the Espada is fighting and utilizing Kaien's abilities, Rukia immediately realizes that the body of Kaien is in some way, shape or form being manipulated. It is difficult for her heart to accept the truth that this isn't Kaien, because her eyes and her body feel as if he is really here. The Espada has the upper hand as he unleashes a barrage of attacks against Rukia. After overpowering her, Rukia desperately uses a Kido spell, as she is able to blow a hole through the walls of his palace. When he tries to evade the sunlight, Rukia questions why is it that he is avoiding it. She realizes that everything that this Espada has been saying has been a lie. He had initially convinced her to enter into the Dark Palace because Aizen rules everywhere that the light shines upon, making her believe that they were speaking in the darkness so as to not be detected by Aizen. Rukia continues to question within her mind why the Espada is not fond of the sunlight. She then binds him with a Kido spell and blows another hole through his palace. When the sunlight shines upon the Espada, it reveals Aaroniero true face. We see this capsule-shaped head that is filled with liquid, and within it are two small floating heads. We finally learn about the Espada's true identity, as Rukia no longer needs to worry whether if the real Kaien is in front of her now. It appears as though Aaroniero doesn't like his physical appearance, and this explains why he wears a mask to cover himself. The Espada continues to prove that he has knowledge over all of Kaien's memories, as he comments upon the Kido spell that Rukia had utilized, as he states that that spell is Byakuya's speciality. While in his unmasked state, the Espada refers to himself in the plural. The two heads state that they cannot utilize their powers within the sunlight, so they have to remain within the shadows. After going back into the darkness, they transform yet again into Kaien Shiba. The Espada then goes on to reveal the truth about how he had taken up Kaien's form, as well as revealing his power called Gluttoneria. He states that he was impersonating Kaien and utilizing his memories in order to manipulate Rukia. At this point, Rukia loses her will to fight, as the Espada unleashes his Resurrection. When Aaroniero's Zanpakuto is released, the lower half of his body transforms into a purple mass. It appears to have several octopus-like tentacles, with large red eyes and large mouths also. Aaroniero reveals that the released form of his Zanpakuto is a physical manifestation of all of the hollows that he has consumed. His Zanpakuto Gluttoneria can utilize the abilities of all of its victims at the same time, as Aaroniero reveals that he has consumed 33,650 hollows. After she loses her will to continue fighting, Rukia is impaled by Aaroniero's Zanpakuto. When Rukia regains her resolve and realizes that the real Kaien was never in front of her, and after he had died, he had imparted himself into the hearts of all of those people who had loved him through the various memories that they had shared together. It is when Rukia remembers that Kaien lives on within her heart that she grabs the Zanpakuto of the Espada. Aaroniero, realizing that she is still conscious, commends her efforts. When Aaroniero mocks Rukia that her Zanpakuto has been broken, she reveals the third dance of her Zanpakuto, as her blade reforms and impales the head of Aaroniero. After the glass capsule shatters and the liquid pours out, we see the differing reactions of the two heads, as the lower head screams out that it cannot breathe, as it pleads for Aizen to save it. After yelling out in frustration, it eventually cracks, while the second head curses its predicament and breaks in two, and this serves as the end to Aaroniero's character. While pretending to be Kaien Shiba, he was grateful that he was the one who had come across Rukia, and it was thanks to this encounter that we got to see the sadistic and manipulative nature of this Espada, and through his ability how he was able to have a psychological edge over Rukia. Aaroniero is a pretty fascinating character, in the sense that he has three sets of powers. His own Arrancar ability, which of course is to consume hollows and absorb everything that they have, and the second is the power of every single hollow that he has ever consumed, and the third aspect to his powers is that he can access all of Kaien's abilities as a Shinigami, and we see him utilize these three aspects of his abilities during his battle against Rukia, as we quickly understand why he was made into an Espada, despite all of the things that were holding him back, in particular the fact that he was a Gillian class Menos. When hollows are typically transformed into Arrancars, they are given Shinigami powers, but Aaroniero is yet again an outlier, in the sense that he can control the pure Shinigami powers of Kaien Shiba. He was quite fortunate that he had consumed Metastasia, albeit at the right time while the hollow was still fused with Kaien. We are aware that Kubo had given Aaroniero greed as his aspect of death, and this perfectly complements his ability to evolve continuously. He has no reason not to continue devouring hollows, so that he can not only gain more power, but also gain all of the hollows' abilities and Reiatsu. If Aaroniero wasn't killed, then there is no doubt that he would have continued evolving. Within his lifetime, we know that he had consumed 33,650 hollows, and this should be a testament to the amount of greed that he has, and it is in line with his aspect of death. and it also complements the name of his Zanbakudo, Gluttonaria, because those who are typically greedy also manifest traits of gluttony. So through Aaroniero character, Rukia was made to face the guilt that she feels regarding Kaien's death, and through their encounter she finally got some much needed closure. After she remembers the words of Kaien, she accepts that her enemy is an imposter, and to honor her lieutenant's memory she needs to take out the imposter who is using his body. It was an iconic battle with a tragic ending. Through the climax of their encounter, we were able to see the third dance of Rukia's Zanbakudo, and we were able to see the true form of Aaroniero. Behind that cunning and ruthless personality were two cowards. They were afraid of showing their true selves, so for that reason they were hiding behind a mask. In the end, Aaroniero ends up being another very uniquely designed character, one that is very rich with characterization, and despite him being one of the weaker Espada, we get to learn what actually sets him apart from the others, and why he is unique in his theme of evolution and his theme of greed and gluttony. It would have been interesting to see Aaroniero survive, and to see where his limitless evolution would have taken him, but ultimately his primal hollow instincts, and the hasty method through which he had revealed his true motives were his ultimate downfall. So we're at the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What did you think about the character of Aaroniero? Has this video funnily enough helped to shine a new light onto this character? Or do you perceive him as an uninteresting and weak villain? I would love to read all of your thoughts, so definitely continue the discussion in the comments, and thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach character analysis video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.